Welcome, Gemini, to your in-depth monthly horoscope for January 2024 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you some standout details to look out for, but please stay with me. I will explore in much greater detail. Now, on the 14th, Mercury, your ruler, comes out of its retrograde, but it doesn't emerge from its shadow until the 21st of January, which is set to be a fated day because Pluto moves back into Aquarius, had 11 weeks there last year. It's going to be here this year through to the 2nd of September initially, but for you this is very much about expansion. It's about discovery of new possibilities. So very exciting. The Sun also moves on the previous day. So that third week of the month is one I can't wait to share more about with you. As we make our way into year 2024, if you would like to understand what this will mean for you in a totally individual way and ascend above this zodiac broadcast, please give me 3 pieces of your birth data of time, date and place, or date and place if you don't know your time, and I'll produce for you your 12-month forecast. This will be a full 12 months from the time of your order, unless you order in the latter part of 23, and I'll give you the rest of that year for free. But along with your 12-month forecast, which will give you searing insights, you can also get your character analysis report, your life roadmap. That gives you a much more intimate understanding of the influences that are played out in your whole life and how you can work with them. Also, you'll get your zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, your Indian Vedic forecast and your Chinese forecast for year 2024, all free of charge. Please see the link beneath this video for more. So Gemini, as you make your way into year 2024, the link between the Sun and Jupiter is potentially very fortuitous. But the Sun in the 8th house can have a very physical dimension in terms of thinking about our long-term finances, and it's where we're most invested or connected. But I feel that there can be a transition, a sense that things are changing in your world, and the link to Jupiter, which is just settled in your 12th house, is much more reflective. So you're going to be thinking deeply, I feel. Most of us are attuned to some degree to our New Year's resolutions or sales, or just getting cranked up back into our normal routines. But in your case, Mercury, your ruler, Venus and Mars are all in your opposite sign. That's very much to do with where we connect to others. It can be about how we relate. Mars can give you a little bit more of an ability to set your boundaries. No bad thing at all. But Venus is checked by Saturn and Mercury is still in its retrograde. It does go direct on the 2nd, but Mars is also affected by a planet in the sign of Pisces, and that is Neptune. So I feel that the Neptunian energy, which is very much to do with how you connect with the wider world, is going to impact on your relationships. So you may be thinking about your work relationships, how you link with people, the people you could build better alliances with. You could also be thinking, if you are in a committed relationship, about how you're going to tackle the worldly dimension over year 2024. But do bear in mind that link between Jupiter and the Sun can give you a lot of hidden resources to help you to make progress in this year in that regard. And you get a real boost on the 4th when Mars bursts away from the enervating angle to Neptune and moves into Capricorn. And now Mars loves being in Capricorn, and Mars in the 8th house is also quite lusty. So whatever you desire, Mars is going to amp it up. And also Mars goes on to forge a terrific link with Jupiter from the 7th to the 17th, and that becomes exact on the 12th. The things that you're doing behind the scenes, the research, perhaps confidential discussions, soundings you're taking, can actually be very good for you if you're wanting to make progress with an entrepreneurial plan, or perhaps pitching yourself forwards for some kind of business opportunity with an employer. But of course, the 8th house can be about intimacy, and Mars can be quite lusty. Is there someone who's really going to capture your imagination this month? And also, it should be said that right through the first 3 months of this year, Jupiter and Saturn are also collaborating really well. If we think that Jupiter is about it's the greater benefic, and Saturn is the greater malefic, they're balancing each other out. So past experiences and talents and knowledge that you've accumulated over a very long period of time, Jupiter, can apply to how you raise your profile in your professional interest if you can get that nice balance between self-belief and also going through the processes and being very disciplined towards any targets that you have. But the 11th does see the new moon in the sign of Capricorn. But it's a new moon that's arcing towards Uranus, also in your 12th house. I think Uranus has been causing Gemini people some mischief in recent years. If you have found it harder to sleep at night or just felt very restless, almost a little bit like if we're walking along, we feel that we've got something in our shoe, we stop, undo our lace, shake the shoe out, put our foot back in the shoe, start walking again, and still there's that something niggling away in the bottom of our shoe. I feel that that's what Uranus can be in a way, because Uranus is the planet of higher truths, but of course it's a disruptor planet, and the 12th house is very psychological, and you're on the air sign, so you feel most comfortable talking about things in a more logical, present way. The 12th house is about getting in touch with the parts of ourselves we don't always feel comfortable with, our hidden side, our anxieties, the parts that maybe we don't even like about ourselves, or people can flag those elements up about us to us, but not necessarily in always the most pleasant way. So Uranus has not been an easy influence, but here it links to the sun and the moon in a very productive way. Now, of course, the moon in Capricorn is the weakest of all its lunations throughout the year because it is debilitated in Capricorn, but I feel the 8th house is very deep, and if there is something you want to transform or let go of, Uranus can be about freeing ourselves from some kind of restriction. Maybe it's self-limiting thinking that you're imposing on yourself, that you can't achieve this and you can't achieve that. And in fact, the link between Mars and Jupiter, which peaks on the 12th, threads through that particular new moon. So do believe the knowledge and experiences that you've accumulated can in some way create an improvement in your situation in the here and now. Now on the 14th, Mercury returns to Capricorn, which is a very business-like location for it. Mercury in the 7th house, particularly in retrograde, could be lots of discussions but not necessarily much comprehension. I think Mercury in the 8th is very much about deciphering what the real message is. If something has seemed a little bit hard to work out, I think you're going to do so now. It was last in Capricorn on the 23rd of December. And it will, as I mentioned before, come out of shadow on the 21st of January. But what we have on the 20th is really significant because the Sun and Pluto are going to come together in an exact conjunction in the last minutes of the sign of Capricorn. Now, it's true that Pluto will return to Capricorn on the 2nd of September, but this combination is going to give you a lot of food for thought. I want you to think back to year 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn. How has your life transformed since then? Because I think the answer is quite massively. And if you look back, you should really acknowledge all the changes and adaptations that you've brought to your situation. But on the 21st, Pluto moves into Aquarius. The Sun moved there later on the 20th, which is great for you because it's the 9th house. If things had felt a little bit intense and full on in the turn of the year, you might feel that now's the time to start thinking about breaking out in some way. That could be going off for a weekend to see friends. It could be taking up some new interests. But because the Sun and Pluto are combining and Pluto moves into Aquarius on its birthday, the 21st of January, for you that really could give you a big push to share knowledge you have. If you're someone who's got a lot of experience and skills, and you're someone who's good at explaining things, this could be a wonderful time to launch a new book. And of course, Pluto's not going to be in Aquarius for a short amount of time. Yes, it's 38 weeks in this year, but it's going to be from the 19th of November in your 9th house of expansion for many, many years to come. So an enormous opportunity really to bring a new philosophy into your world, to embrace travel, to have connections with different cultures, to bring new interests in, and in general just feel very excited about how dynamic your life can be. Now, as much as Neptune was a mischief maker in its right angle with Mars at the start of this month, and Saturn was creating some tensions in some professional relationships at the start of the month in its square with Venus, from the 13th to the 19th, just before Mercury does move back into Capricorn, it is being blocked by Neptune. So I should just say that at the heart of this month, very, very important, despite the fact that Mercury is going back into Capricorn, that you're still cutting through to really get to the detail of things in as crisp and clear way as possible. Now in week 3, it's Venus's turn to move into a shimmering right angle with Neptune. And if someone is trying to excite you in a professional situation, there does seem to be a good connection between you. That's brilliant, because Venus and Neptune can be very, very idealistic. But again, it's important to make sure the details work for you and there's not some kind of distortion. And in fact, on the 23rd, Venus moves into Capricorn. And here, this could trigger some kind of financial improvement in your situation. If you've been working hard in a business context, some money can come back to you, or someone could be generous to you. There may be some kind of legacy that could come to you over the next few weeks. But in a romantic context, if you are in a loving relationship, it could get hot from the 23rd onwards. But the full moon of the 25th is in the sign of Leo, which for you is kind of redolent of the energy of your sign. The 3rd house is about quick communication. But of course, the moon benefits from really feeling things in a more soulful way. The sun in the detached sign of Aquarius, where it itself is in detriment, well, that is squaring along with the moon to Jupiter. So Jupiter in a square, a T-square to this particular event is really interesting for you, because Jupiter in your 12th house means that if you do have some important conversations over the following 2 weeks, it could be that you're going to share some things that may surprise certain people who feel that they know you and know you well, but you may actually be more open to ventilating some old issues that maybe you want to get off your chest. But equally, if you encounter people that don't necessarily have your best interests at heart, it's not the greatest of times to share things that they may see as juicy tidbits that they could gossip about. So Jupiter in the 12th house is a very tender and sensitive influence, but it can be a very helpful one, but it does need to be handled with a degree of care. Of course, Jupiter's going to move into your sign on the 23rd of May, and you've got that to look forward to, because that's the first time for 12 years bringing a new cycle into play, particularly for you to showcase your brilliance. But with the North Node and the eclipse series going across your 11th and 5th houses, there's lots of things to be excited about. But I think the energy of Uranus and Jupiter in your 12th house through January and into the initial part of the new year is asking you still to stay in touch and keep working, getting more intimately aware of all the different dark corners of your being, or if you know yourself very well, becoming more and more conscious of other people's motives, attitudes and approach to different situations. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Gemini. I'd like to wish you all the best for January and a happy new year. Remember, if you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, please see the link beneath this video where you can book that. But I'd be grateful if you would like, comment, share or subscribe.